And now I'm going to move on to IT infrastructure, which should be everybody's favorite portion of this whiteboarding session if you're watching this today. Before you get into infrastructure, though, you want to think about your overall strategy for running applications. And there's many different ways to deploy apps in a data center. You could actually have dedicated hardware for your application. You could choose to run a number of virtual applications on just a few servers, or you might want to push your applications all the way out to the cloud. Now, common thought process used to be that from a performance standpoint, you'd get your highest performance here, and then as you move down to cloud, performance would diminish. Now, that's not true anymore. The features of the virtual servers and the workloads run just fine in any of these different models, and it's really up to your organization whether you want to move to a shared model, to an OpEx model, or have the pure CapEx model. From a server perspective, there's many different options of servers out there today. From servers, you can have standard servers, you can have rack-optimized servers, or you could actually have blade servers, and those are servers that live in a blade chassis. And the type of things to think about with the server, other than form factor, is how much memory you need and what kind of memory management. You want to think about the processor, and this is a key decision now, because we used to just have single-core processors, and we ran one application per server, and that was fine. Today what we have is multi-core processors, and those have really been optimized for virtualization in mind. So if you're going to be running a lot of virtual traffic, you want to use a processor here with multiple cores, because that's going to provide the kind of performance you need to run a highly virtualized environment. Okay? From a storage perspective, the world of storage is also quite complicated as well. It's not just direct attached storage. And direct attached storage was the most common model years ago, but over time we've moved to network attached storage, and those are your NAS systems. And if you're running any high performance systems like databases and things like that, you're going to want to move to some sort of SAN, and this is typically a fiber channel type system, but it's used again when performance is really a premium. You don't often see fiber channel in smaller data centers. You will in larger ones, though. Now, there are some emerging technologies out there as well, and these are things like if you're building a greenfield data center out, you might want to think about using fiber channel over Ethernet, and a great option for small companies is iSCSI. iSCSI uses the IP protocol to transmit storage traffic and leverages the Ethernet network that's already in place. So for smaller companies and SMBs, I recommend using iSCSI. If you have applications that demand it, you want to think about using fiber channel over Ethernet. The last thing to think about with storage is something called solid-state drives. Now, solid-state drives historically have been thought of as very, very expensive, but the cost curve on solid-state has come way, way down. So you no longer need to worry about, is it too expensive for my organization? You need to think about the type of access you want. So if you need speed, solid-state's your answer. If you want cost efficiency, iSCSI is probably the best solution for you. The last thing to think about in your data center as far as infrastructure goes is the network. Now, network gear can be very expensive itself if not deployed efficiently. There's been a big move in the industry lately to move away from the typical three-tier model into something that's a little flatter, known as a network fabric. And these are solutions that are made from almost every mainstream network manufacturer today, but this will allow you to build a much flatter data center that's able to accommodate converged I/O, things like storage, iSCSI, much more efficiently than you had in the past. So from an infrastructure perspective, it's servers, it's storage, and network. The last piece of the infrastructure puzzle is your network management strategy. And while the management tools are fairly good, from a small business perspective, because you typically have very small IT departments, what you're going to need is some sort of great remote management tools. So think about where your building is, the fact that you're going to be at home and your staff's going to be at home. How do you manage this from your home? And there's things like IP KVMs. So that's the ability to log into a remote console using IP through some sort of VPN and manage the servers. You can get things like IP-enabled power strips, and this will allow you to shut down the servers and the different systems if they're in the event of some kind of power failure and give you time to get there. So from an overall management perspective, I would concentrate on using great remote management tools, because as a smaller company, having a smaller IT staff, you're going to depend on these far more than you think. So in summary, the things to think about for SMBs building a data center are, first of all, the physical location, that is the size of the room and the type of security you want. The facilities part of running a data center, that's primarily power and cooling, and then of course your IT infrastructure, which is made up of servers, storage, network, and the management tools required to keep your operations ongoing. So thank you very much for joining me today on this virtual whiteboarding session. I'm Zeus Caravallo, Senior Vice President at Yankee Group.